Eduardo Rodriguez dominated again and now owns the sixth best ERA in baseball. Plus, with injuries piling up, can Mitch, Bratt, Jose Cabrera, and Brandon Pfaadt stabilize the Diamondbacks rotation?
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Diamondbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, George Lund, coming at you a few 20, 30 minutes or so, coming away from a Diamondbacks win. Of course, this would be the morning after, but it was a nice win to stabilize some of the bad that's gone on recently. This big road trip, the anticipation of this being a ginormous stretch, and we talked about it last episode, how big this stretch is for their trade deadline plans coming up, and how the rotation looks and how they're going to attack the second half in terms of maybe bringing up youth, getting rid of some of the older players on the roster and going towards that youth movement. So it's a big stretch. They had to pick up some wins here or there. And who better to get a win, to get a quality start, an outing that really gives the Diamondbacks a chance when they've been struggling offensively than Eduardo Rodriguez. He was great again. They picked up the win 4-3. Even the 3 runs that the Cardinals scored don't really show how good Eduardo Rodriguez was. Paul Sewald made it a little closer than it had to be in the 9th inning, sort of classic Paul Sewald before the season. Gives up 3 runs, 4 hits. It really came down to J.J. Weatherholt after Garcia came in and he closed the door, but it was a little close. But for the most part, this was a pretty handed win for the Diamondbacks. They had clutch hitting in the 9th inning. Nolan Arenado and Lourdes Gurriel came up with some big hits with runners in scoring position, and the Diamondbacks scored 4 in the 9th inning. But for the most of the time in this game, it was a 0-0 game until late in the game, and that was because of Eduardo Rodriguez. 6 2/3, 3 hits, 0 earned, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Dominates again. He's just been their most consistent and the starter they can rely on the most throughout the season. Obviously, Michael Soroka has been phenomenal, but the ERA is a little higher, and now he's injured. So they have to rely on somebody in this rotation. There's no Ryan Nelson. You can't rely on Zach Gallen or Merrill Kelly anymore. So who are you going to call? Eduardo Rodriguez. And he's been phenomenal. He lowers his ERA to 2.27. That's the 6th best ERA in baseball. Now you look down Fangraphs, some of the stats. Who is he around in the ERA leaders? Well, some of the current MLB ERA leaders are Chase Burns, Christopher Sanchez, Chris Sale, Eduardo Rodriguez, and Jacob Misiorowski. That's in no order in particular, but that's not a bad list. That's not a bad group of pitchers to be around right now. He really just has been that good, and I believe at this point, Eduardo Rodriguez should absolutely be an all-star. I think there's a case at the end of the season if he continues this pace for a little more awards, but right now I think we can just look at the all-star and say that Corbin Carroll and Eduardo Rodriguez should almost certainly be 2 all-stars. They're incredibly deserving for the run prevention they've been able to put up, and Corbin Carroll, of course, has a 900 OPS, and I want to talk about the all-star voting and how Corbin Carroll is sort of getting the bad end of the stick because he plays in Arizona and he's not in this giant market getting votes from Toronto. Like Ernie Clement has 2 million votes, which is insane. But Corbin Carroll should absolutely be an all-star, and Eduardo Rodriguez should absolutely be an all-star. And I believe his season has flown a little under the radar just because of how bad he was last season and some of the seasons that before that. I feel like Eduardo Rodriguez has gone away from his reputation as a strong starter in this league, but I believe that the work that he put in the offseason to get back to square one and put together a great year for the Diamondbacks, it's come at a great time for him, just being that the Diamondbacks needed this right now. They needed some consistency in the rotation. They needed somebody to stabilize themselves every 5 days and give them a chance when the offense is trying to get out of this rut that they've been in the last month. But he's just been phenomenal. I mean, for his ERA to be as low as it is, considering some of the underlying numbers, and I want to get through that in a second, he's just been great. He continues to strand runners, and that's kind of been the big thing for him this year. His left on base percentage is 2nd among qualified pitchers this year, and that's been a big reason for his 2.27, which is the 6th best in ERA. But the funny part is about Eduardo Rodriguez, for as good as he's been, the underlying numbers are very skeptical of him. If you look down the list of how I mentioned left on base percentage and how he's 2nd among qualified pitchers, well, you'll see a lot of those pitchers, probably 1 through 10 at least, almost every one of those pitchers has a higher expected ERA than they do their regular ERA. Now, maybe so there's some outliers, Jacob Misiorowski, Christopher Sanchez, even Chase Burns, but that's because those guys throw 99-mile-per-hour fastballs. And there's a little room for error when it comes to you get on base. You might have gotten a lucky hit here or there, especially off Mizorowski with how he's pitched this season. But a pitcher like Eduardo Rodriguez only throws 91 or so miles per hour. His K per nine numbers are among some of his career lows, and his walk per nine numbers are among some of the career highs. So there's been a lot of traffic. He's not striking out or overwhelming hitters. He's dealt with a lot of players on base, and he's wiggled out of a countless amount of jams. And we'll kind of talk about how he was able to do that again today. But it's kind of funny that his expected ERA is actually the 7th largest differential among qualified starters. He has a 2.27 ERA and a 4.93 expected ERA. Now, I think when you look at this, I don't want to just throw you, oh, well, his expected ERA, that's just predictive stats. That's not actually what he's done. So why does it matter what the prediction stats are? I think there's a way to forecast maybe what's coming, but I think I've been almost forecasting this for 2 weeks about when is it going to come? When is the bad start for Eduardo Rodriguez going to come? Against the Reds, he wasn't great. That was a bit of a short outing. Even against the Nationals, he gave up 4 earned runs, but he was pretty good in that outing. And I thought those 2 starts in a row might have been his sign of, okay, he's starting to decline a little bit, but he's stabilized really well. And I just think Eduardo Rodriguez is able to get out of these jams consistently. It might not just be luck at this point. His 86.1% left on base rate ranks 2nd among qualified pitchers in this game in particular. He escaped from a 2-on, 2-out jam in the 4th inning. And then in the 6th inning, I thought where the outing might have gotten a little bit out of control, he had the bases loaded and he escaped a bases loaded 1-out situation in the 6th. Now, it shouldn't have been a double play, but there was a pop-up over to Perdomo, and it was really right behind shortstop, but Tommy Troy, who's playing center field for the first time, comes flying in all the way from center, and I'm not sure if Perdomo didn't call it or Troy didn't call it and wanted to get it anyways, or whatever the communication was there, but Troy came crashing into Perdomo, who catches the fly ball, tried to tag at third, and Perdomo throws him out at home because he thought maybe Perdomo would have fallen off balance because Troy ran into him, but nonetheless, a double play gets him out of a jam. He goes 6 2/3, pitches until Murillo comes in the 7th inning with 2 outs, gets him out of that. But again, just another great start. And, whether it's sequencing, veteran poise, luck, or some combination of all three, Rodriguez continues to find a way to pitch really well for the Diamondbacks. And they've just needed him to at this point in the year. And it's come at a ginormous time with Soroka down, Nelson down, and them trying to stay in this race and see if they are buyers, if they're going to stand still at the deadline. What are they going to do? Are they still contending for an NL wildcard spot? The only way they really have a chance right now is they get quality outings from their starting pitchers. Now, I wanted to transition a little bit. It was almost going to be my lead into the show about some of the news with what's going to happen with rotation, but I wanted to talk a lot about Rodriguez because he was great again today, and that feels like the headline in the Diamondbacks season. They've had Corbin Carroll's obviously been great. You knew he was going to be great. Marte's been great as of late. Perdomo hasn't really been all that's signed up to be, but Eduardo Rodriguez feels like the story of the season for the Diamondbacks. But looking at the rotation, Nelson's out, Soroka's out. They have all these issues in the rotation. We saw one of their answers in Jose Cabrera, and I want to talk about him a little more there in upcoming here. Before we go to break, I want to talk a little bit about Mitch Bratt. Diamondbacks are expected to activate left-hander Mitch Bratt for Wednesday's game in St. Louis. Obviously, the Diamondbacks trying to find some rotation stability. They thought coming into the season that they'd have Burns, Nelson, Soroka, and Brandon Pfaadt all to work with. They have none of those as it stands. Brandon Pfaadt still down in the minor leagues. Talk about him a little later. So they're bringing up Mitch Bratt, their number 14th overall prospect. Bratt, 22, was acquired from Texas last year in the Merrill Kelly deal and is now the Diamondbacks' number 14 overall prospect. Hopefully they can get a little bit from Merrill Kelly. Obviously, they bring Merrill Kelly back in the offseason, but would be a kind of a nice exchange there if they are able to get a nice return, a quality starter in the big leagues, and then retain Merrill Kelly in the same offseason. Now, of course, Merrill Kelly hasn't been what the Diamondbacks have wanted with the contract, with the money that they're giving him. He hasn't been great, but still to get a return out of Merrill Kelly when they were able to deal him last year feels like a good trade in retrospect. So we'll talk a little bit about Mitch Bratt after the break. Workplace chaos can show up fast. That's where Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes in. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach candidates who actually fit where you're looking for based on skills, experience, and location. Finding the right person can make all the difference, whether it's building a business or building a winning team. Think about the Michael Soroka signing for the Diamondbacks in the offseason. Some of the best moves organizations make aren't always the splashiest ones. Sometimes it's finding the person who fits exactly what the team needs at the right moment. That's what stood out to me here, and it's the same idea behind Indeed sponsored jobs, helping connect organizations with candidates who are the right fit from the start. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through all the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. We are back. Want to tell you a little bit about the Everydayers Club. Get your daily Diamondbacks coverage completely ad-free by joining the Everydayer Club today. Start your 7-day free trial right now and get closer to your team without the interruptions. Click the link in your show notes or go to lockedondiamondbacks.supercast.com to claim your free trial. So I want to talk a little bit about Mitch Bratt. Torey Lovullo just announced that he's going to make his major league debut and make his start tomorrow. Like I mentioned before, just 22 years old, number 14 overall prospect in the Diamondbacks organization. They were able to get him from Texas in the Merrill Kelly deal last year. So getting some value out of that already. This year, he has a 2.84 ERA in 44.1 innings in 2026. He's been phenomenal down in AAA, a fastball that sits around 90 to 91 miles per hour. So he's going to rely a little bit more on command and pitchability than overpowering stuff. Work on soft contact. That's going to be the game plan, what Eduardo Rodriguez has done so well for the Diamondbacks. He'll rely on that a lot. Baseball America ranks Bratt as the Diamondbacks' number 13 overall prospect and views him as a control-oriented starter with mid-rotation upside. Some news in particular. It's weird because Bratt hasn't been stretched out just yet. He recently returned from a 2-week IL stint with a shoulder issue and is not fully stretched out the same way Brandon Pfaadt's not completely stretched out. So even though he's coming up to try to stabilize the rotation, how long he's going to go in the upcoming game, not too sure. He likely won't be capable of providing a traditional starter's workload and could instead work in a shorter outing, perhaps around 60 pitches. That was around where Brandon Pfaadt was at last time in his last AAA outing. Again, talk about that a little later. But he's not going to go out and give you 90 pitches like Eduardo Rodriguez did today. So they're going to rely still on their bullpen and what they've been able to get from about 6 or 7 guys who have been really quality out of the bullpen for them. But that's not the worst thing ever. But whether he starts traditionally, works as a bulk reliever, or piggybacks with another arm remains to be seen. We'll see him start tomorrow, and his role could change because as of now, Jose Cabrera has still not been announced as the next starter. So maybe he's going to work in a little bit of a long relief role, but Torey Lovullo has not announced when Jose Cabrera's next start is going to be. And now you're seeing a little bit about what this rotation could shake out to be. Obviously, the big questions have been as of late is what are the Diamondbacks going to do in this rotation? There was a point in time where they had about 6 options when you count in when they originally signed Burns. They had Jordan Montgomery, and it was, oh, look at all these options that the Diamondbacks have in the rotation. They're going to have the best rotation in baseball. Now it's just dwindled down to where all their best starters are injured, and now some of their worst starters are the ones that have stayed healthy and are the only ones sticking around. So we obviously saw it with Jose Cabrera recently. He got off to a great start. He had a super impressive debut and exactly what the Diamondbacks needed right now when they need some innings. They need some standouts in the rotation. They need some kind of light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to the rotation. Looking at Jose Cabrera's impressive debut, I know I talked about a little bit more in a previous episode, but I want to kind of talk about what this rotation could look like going forward when you add in Bratt, when you add in Eduardo Rodriguez is still pitching great, when you added hopefully Cabrera and Brandon Pfaadt, seems like eventually they're going to want him coming back up to the big leagues. But kind of a fair description that I've gotten from looking at Cabrera about the online stuff, he's not the same blue chip prospect as a lot of these same guys coming up. So Troy, Waldschmidt, even Bratt at that. But what Cabrera is he's more of a sleeper breakout arm. He projects as a back-end starter or a bullpen piece with upside. He's earned prospect status through performance rather than pedigree, and his MLB debut couldn't have gone better. 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 0 walks, 3 strikeouts. He threw 6 different pitches, and he threw them about in equal substance. The cutter, the sinker, the curveball, his fastball, his sweeper, and that's a pitch that's kind of taking over baseball right now. He generated 11 whiffs, which is a good amount, limited hard contact, held velocity deep into the outing, and he looked far more polished than I expected for his MLB debut. And the Diamondbacks they need quality innings right now, and Cabrera has been great. Cabrera's been good down in the minor leagues too. The Diamondbacks have a lot of talent down in the minor leagues. Don't let anybody tell you that based on what some of the prospects rankings say. They have a lot of talent down there, and Cabrera is kind of an example of that, where he's not this top prospect, but he's been great, and he can come up and give them quality. Had a 3.69 ERA, a 1.03 WHIP, and a 9.44 Ks per nine, and his strikeout rate has gone up over 10% this year. His walk rate has decreased. So I think there's a little bit to say about a youth movement. We talked about that in the last episode, how not only there's this youth movement going on throughout the lineup and just the team in general, but in the rotation too. I mean, if Cabrera and we talk about Bratt, if these guys step up, then what's to say that these guys aren't going to replace Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly in the rotation next year? Now, Merrill Kelly's obviously still on contract here next year, but if he finishes this year with a 6 ERA, do the Diamondbacks really stick with him going into his age 37 or 38 season? I'm not ultimately too sure, but as of right now, Cabrera and Bratt kind of lead that mark, and given all the injuries, these innings suddenly matter a lot. And I wanted to give an update on Brandon Pfaadt, right? So we talk about Cabrera, we talk about Bratt, and let me see where I'm at right now. We talk about Cabrera, we talk about Bratt, but what's next for Brandon Pfaadt? Obviously, he's been one of the Diamondbacks' worst pitchers this year. A 5.92 ERA. He's given up the most earned runs out of the bullpen, and when he was starting, he really didn't look much better. It's just been such a downwards tilt for Brandon Pfaadt. It's been so unfortunate after what happened in the 2023 playoffs. He just hasn't been able to stable himself in the rotation. The quality of innings they give him have just not been great. The stuff hasn't gotten better. The shapes, everything just hasn't developed the way I'd like to imagine the Diamondbacks would have liked to see him develop. And how much longer the Diamondbacks remain confident in him, we'll have to see. It almost feels like the chances are dwindling for him. Now they're giving him a giant opportunity going down to the minors and building himself back up to be a starter after he pitched in relief for a lot of this year because of what they needed, and he just couldn't stand in the rotation anymore because Soroka was pitching well, Rodriguez was pitching well, Gallen, Kelly, whatever. But they sent him back down to AAA. So far, his first three AAA starts, 3 innings pitched, 1 hit, 0 earned run, 1 K, 3.1 inning pitched, 3 hits, 2 earned, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, and 3 2/3, 2 hits, 0 earned runs, 4 Ks. And his last start was 52 pitches. Now, on June 19th, Torey Lovullo said, we want to make sure when and if Brandon Pfaadt gets back here, he's built out to a certain number of pitches. Now, speaking about the 3 1/3, 3 hits, 2 earns, 2 walks, 2 Ks, so his second start, but not his most recent start, Lovullo said that Pfaadt threw 45 pitches in his last outing for Reno, which Lovullo admitted is not a great number for him or us. So he only threw 52 pitches, so he only threw 7 more pitches in his next outing. And for Lovullo to call it a not great number for him or us speaks to maybe he's going to be there for a little longer. But what's really interesting is that he's listed down as the probable pitcher for Friday's game against the Reds. So it's clear that there was a change since he said that. Obviously, there has been a little bit of change between Ryan Nelson going down and Michael Soroka going down. So maybe there is a little bit of a panic to say that we just need somebody to eat innings at this point. It's really frustrating because you would have liked to see Pfaadt stay down there for a month and a half, just to avoid injury so he can build himself up correctly and just fix some of the issues that he has altogether. Now, how much those issues are going to be fixed in a month down in AAA, who knows? But he just needs to take a little time away from the limelight right now and develop down there. And the Diamondbacks, their hand may be forced to press the Brandon Pfaadt button and get him up to the big league so he can eat some innings, so they don't dwindle down their bullpen or any of their other starters that, they're taking a big chance on Cabrera and Bratt. Maybe they do feel like those guys are ready to be up in the big leagues right now, but I don't really think so. I'd like to imagine that right now they're just kind of doing with what they have, and they're forced to bring up some of those guys because they need them. They've had just so many injuries, not only just to the rotation, but to the bullpen as well, that they just need somebody to eat innings at this point. So it creates a really strange situation for the Diamondbacks because neither Bratt nor Pfaadt is fully stretched out, meaning the Diamondbacks may once again have to be creative with innings. So like I said, it makes a really, really interesting thing. The Diamondbacks options for the upcoming rotation spot include moving Merrill Kelly up a day, using a fully stretched out starter, or going with a bullpen. But Pfaadt, like I said, is listed as the probable starter for the Diamondbacks at Tampa Bay. So what they're going to do in that situation, I'm not all too sure just yet. We'll have to see. We'll talk a little bit more about that after the break. ED is way more common than most guys think, and millions of men deal with it at some point. HIMSS offers a simple, convenient way to take care of your health by connecting you with licensed healthcare providers online and giving you access to personalized treatment options from the comfort of home. No awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, just a straightforward process designed to make getting care easier. Taking care of yourself shouldn't feel complicated, and HIMSS makes the process private and easy to navigate. It's healthcare built around your schedule and your comfort. When something is already uncomfortable to talk about, the last thing you want is a complicated process. Having the ability to start online from home makes taking that first step feel much more manageable. To get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/lockedon. That's hims.com/lockedonmlb for your free online visit. hims.com/lockedonmlb. Prescription required. See website for details and important safety information. Sildenafil is the generic version of Viagra. Viagra is a registered trademark of Viatris Specialty LLC. HIMSS is not affiliated with or endorsed by Viatris. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone work together towards the same goal. And that's true in sports just like it is business. Think about the Corbin Carroll extension just a few years ago. One thing that really stands out is just how the organizations get everyone pulling in the same direction with the decision. It wasn't just one great player or coach. It was a coordinated effort across the entire organization that made it successful. Great organizations win because operations matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. So the Diamondbacks pull off the win today. They win 4-3. They win one of those one-run games. They played the most one-run games in the entirety of baseball. That's just the way this team is constructed, and I think that's why the rotation issues and what they're going to do at that position is so important. This team was supposed to be built around their starting pitching, so to rely on that starting pitching, to rely on pitchers and their bullpen to keep them in those close games, that's really important. So it feels like that's majority of what I like to talk about because I think that is really important, and they're just at a weird situation right now where they're relying on players to be the hero and make some starts for them that, like Jose Cabrera and how great he was, that they wouldn't have otherwise with how the season just has gone. But the Diamondbacks are still not in a terrible place. They're a game and a half back of a wild card spot. They're 40-39. They dropped back to 500 yesterday, and they got above 500 again today. But just in this NL wildcard race, a lot of the teams are just all over the place. So it's a weird situation to be in, but I still think there's a lot of hope looking at this team. You're just asking a lot from these rookies to see what they have, but we'll see how his start is tomorrow. I'm really excited to see how his start turns out tomorrow. But another thing I wanted to talk about, and it was another issue today, is the runners in scoring position issue. So we've talked a lot about the pitching, Eduardo Rodriguez, how good he's been, getting Brandon Pfaadt back, getting Jose Cabrera, and seeing those guys hopefully shine and step up for the Diamondbacks when they need to in a really, really big moment. But the runners in scoring position issue has gotten really bad. Now, they come away with 2 really big hits in the 9th inning to kind of get back there. They're get away from this rut, and hopefully it sparks kind of an ongoing here. But the funny part is I covered ASU baseball for the last 2 years, and the ASU baseball team that I covered this year was one of the most talented offenses in the entire country. Landon Hairston, of course, is a Golden Spikes finalist. Now, I don't want to bore you guys too much. If you don't watch college baseball, if you don't pay attention to Arizona State baseball, that's just kind of an off thing. But I have a connection here, is that the Diamondbacks are so bad in runners in scoring position. ACU was, and the whole year I spent time just trying to figure out why this was the issue. Now, I pushed Willie Bloomquist really hard, the ACU baseball head coach, trying to see what is this issue, and sometimes I felt bad asking the questions over and over and over again, but it really was something that I had to ask about. It was a consistent issue, and they were such a good offense that it was wild that they could be so bad with runners in the scoring position. And really, he summed it down to the fact that sometimes it becomes a mental thing. And he talked about how it just became sort of a virus for the team, is that a bunch of these guys are working so hard to kind of mend the issue that it just becomes contagious, and the at-bats start to stack up, and there's more pressure going into those situations because they've just dug themselves a deeper and a deeper hole. And it kind of stood out to me that when Jordan Lawler made his debut back from the IL, he got a hit with runners in scoring position immediately. Lourdes Gurriel, he came up off the IL, got a hit with runners in scoring position immediately. So it's a lot of the guys that are coming off fresh off the team that haven't been around the team that are coming up instantly with runners in scoring position, while the rest of the team is just drowning in this issue. And I think it comes from a lack of just someone has to be that guy to step up and get that hit, or have the conversations with everybody that this isn't some giant stressful thing that they need to worry about. Now, college and the major leagues are just so different, so I don't expect this to be a trend over the course of the year. These are major league hitters. You don't have to test their feelings. You don't have to have a talk with them. It's a little different at the collegiate level when a lot of these players maybe feel more stress and more pressure than you would at the major league level. I mean, I don't expect Ketel Marte at his age 32 season, when he's been in a World Series, to be stressed out by a runner on second in the 2nd inning against the Cardinals on the road in the middle of the regular season, right? But I think there's something to be said for how youthful a lot of this team is. We talked about Ryan Waldschmidt and Lou James Groover, and even Lawler's a younger player, and Moreno's still kind of young, and Geraldo Perdomo's really young, but those are a lot of the players that are struggling the most at the plate right now with runners in scoring position. Sort of about an hour ago, before Gurriel and Arenado got the hit, the Diamondbacks were 26 for their last 190, in their last 197 at-bats, they picked up just 26 hits. Nolan Arenado was 1 for his last 23 with runners in scoring position. Geraldo Perdomo was 2 for his last 21 with runners in scoring position. Tommy Troy was 2 for his last 19 with runners in scoring position. Corbin Carroll, 3 for his last 20 with runners in scoring position. But you need to rely on those older players, the Arenados, the Gurriels, the Martes, and Marte's been pretty good with runners in scoring position. So that's why I think it was really nice to see those 2 players in particular, not just because Gurriel and Arenado have been struggling, but those should be the leaders on the team that are making an example out of this situation, this error that the Diamondbacks have had, right? Those young guys are going to feel the pressure. The Tommy Troys, the Jose Fernandez, the Lou James Groovers, those guys are going to feel the pressure of the issue persisting. But when your veterans go out there and prove this is an issue for the team, this isn't us, let's break this sort of trend. That's what I like to see. Their leaders stepping up, and I think sometimes that's what this team needs a little more of. I know there's not a ton of outgoing players on this team. You know, Geraldo Perdomo is young and he's outgoing in his own way, but in terms of just being overly vocal, and sometimes I feel like that's what this team needs. And I see an issue like this, and I've been around a team for the last year or so that dealt with that issue, and I really boiled it down to it just being a mental issue. And now I don't want to compare apples to oranges because they're very different when it comes to college and the major leagues about how this issue persists. But I think there is something to be said that if the entire team is affected by one persistent issue, and it's not a lack of getting base runners on or getting runners on base, clearly it's not. It's about getting that hit when they need it the most, and it just feels like the at-bats dwindle down when the moment requires a big hit. Then it's clear that there's something more than just the luck of the fact that the Diamondbacks just happen to not be able to find that hit when they need to, right? So for the Diamondbacks today to win 4-3, they get those hits with runners in scoring position. That was a really big sign in the right direction for me because they started the game 0 for 8 in the first 3 innings. 2 of those innings, they had a runner on third with 1 out, and they couldn't cash in. And some of the batters that came to plate were Corbin Carroll, Gabriel Moreno, Ketel Marte, and Geraldo Perdomo. So hopefully today is just an example of a game where they shake off the rust a little bit and they get going because they were one of the best teams in baseball through the early part of the season with runners in scoring position. That was one of the strengths of the team. Obviously, Nolan Arenado was playing a lot better than he is right now. Ildemaro Vargas was playing a lot better than he is right now. And a few other guys were on sort of a hot streak, and they've obviously cooled off since then. But someone's got to find the hit, and that could be anybody on the team. Jorge Barrosa is getting more opportunities at the plate. Pavin Smith's going to play every day until Carlos Santana comes up, whether people like it or not. So some of those guys, I mean, I don't need them to hit 300, but if they can get 1 hit a game and that hit comes with runners in scoring position, this team would be in a lot better place than they are right now. And it's been really frustrating seeing some of the starts some Diamondbacks pitchers have given them, and they haven't been able to come through in those big moments and capitalize on those starts. And that's been a lot of their losses. Obviously, they've had a lot of shutouts this month because the offense has been so poor. And some of those games they've gotten Michael Soroka starts or Rodriguez starts that have been some of their best of their season. So it's a frustrating issue that I hope doesn't persist, but I just wanted to give kind of my thought process of what's going on with the team right now and how that issue is such a plague to the team. And I thought giving an example from a team that I covered throughout the year that dealt with the same issue, I thought that would at least be a little bit comparable. Although, like I said, college baseball, Major League Baseball, just so different in the mentality that players have and how they deal with issues, just very different. But hopefully today was an example of them being able to just shake off that just a little bit. In the next episode, I want to talk a little bit more about Max Kepler. He's going to be back Friday, reinstated from the PED suspension that he had coming up from the minor leagues. He's sitting about 400 right now in AAA, so definitely some optimism to believe that he's going to come back and be some sort of impact player for them. Now, granted, he's had around a 700 OPS the last 2 seasons. He hasn't been great. What kind of impact will that be? I'm a big believer right now that the Diamondbacks just need any kind of spark at the plate. They traded away Luis Urias to the Blue Jays, and he had a homer and 2 hits in his first game today, which frustrated me a little bit. And he was hitting 360 in AAA. That would have been a nice player to come up and give you a spark, but whatever the case is, I just think they need some type of spark right now, and I think Max Kepler can definitely give that to them. And I want to talk a little bit about Corbin Carroll's All-Star case. He's being slept on in the votes right now, and fan voting is it's out of control. It's Ernie Clement has 2 million votes, and whether or not you believe that's deserved, Corbin Carroll has about 200,000 votes. So a little frustrating there, but thank you again for tuning in to Locked On Diamondbacks. Hope you come back. Join me tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe and follow the podcast to get all your latest episodes. You can follow me at Gion Media. I'm posting Diamondback stats and breakdowns throughout the day, promoting this show, showing clips on there. If you don't want to watch the entire show, I'll keep pumping out clips so you can see a little tease of what you could get if you keep watching. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Diamondbacks ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedondiamondbacks.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast YouTube channel. On audio, for your second listen, go check out the Locked On MLB. Thank you guys for watching again. Subscribe, comment down below.